High Grade After War Gundam Double X.
Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2B's Gundam Reviews.net, and Yorisei has finished putting together the Gundam Double X High Grade After War indirectly from Build Fighters, and now it's time, after you've seen the parts in the unbox, to put it all together and see how it stacks up, especially next to that Robot Damashi, which is pretty sharp back there. And when he's all put together here, first impressions prior to the backpack, I've got to say, he seems to have all the right colors in all the right places, and actually is looking really, really sharp. There's always going to be a school of thought out there that Gundam should have colored shoulders going back to the original, but for me, the navy blue, the lower body is going to be very, very simple, except for what you're going to see attached onto the side of the legs, but the forearms are going to be bringing some busy action, as are that chest there, when you've got the yellow and the red and the green in short order. But personally, I think it looks fantastic, and the little bits of yellow that you're going to see poking around from the forearms and down on the legs, and combined with the blue soles of the feet, I think this guy is going to be looking good. And remember, it only gets better, as Mrs. Yori is not going to let her son Garrett run out to school without his backpack on here. And it's just going to be great when you do that. Some back issues in terms of weight, as you can see. But with no lasting damage there, he's going to be looking really sharp, and it's easy to address, with the legs having that great hip maneuverability again. Overall, I think this is great, and the thing that's really striking for me is just how many options you've got with the two wing sections, if you want to call them that, and the twin satellite cannons. They're going to be moving around all over the place, and they do feel that perfect mix between movable, posable, and still fixed in there properly, and it just seems like it's going to be very dynamic as he goes whooshing around. And personally, I do like to accentuate the X nature that you can do with this, that you couldn't do with the first Gundam X until you actually deploy them. Combined posability now, where you can see the front skirts are going to go all the way up, and that's not going to look very good, but the legs, a nice forward kick, and the side skirts we've seen here, if you're not actually pulling out the beam saber, are going to offer you with some limited side motion, but you're going to get 45 degrees, probably enough for the majority of poses you'd go for. Still, you've got that great bend with the knee, which is going to be very graceful as he launches off against an ET backdrop. With the upper body moving well, as you can see, he's got the double ab crunch system there, forward, back, side. You're going to get a little bit, but it's not really going to stick. But nonetheless, it's better than a fixed one. The shoulders are going to be able to puff forward a little bit there, and you could reach across if you angled the arm there. But the shoulders, of course, are going to be more interesting to see exactly how these are going to flip and attach over the satellite cannons. The arm coming up 180 is a plus, and remember that there's opening hatches all over the place. Well, 4 anyway, and for the cannons, what are we going to get? You'll see here on the back, they're just going to wiggle a little bit, but they rotate around nicely, and you can see that they could come across and bonk them in the head. If you're not careful about that, going to be interesting to see how that V-fin is going to work exactly. 45 degrees, you can bring these back unless you want to cheat and rotate them around. Perhaps a little bit disappointing that they're not going to be going up and down, but if you do want to actually deploy them, you can use this shoulder moving forward trick, and you can see that you've actually got a nice smooth clearance there. For comparison, you can see that he's going to be a little bit skinnier, as he should be, than an old school Zaku 2, even though this is going to be a revised future high mobility type. More specifically, Tatsuya Yuki's one here with the amazing booster and all sorts of weapons strapped onto the back, but they're not quite going to be as impressive as Garrett's there. Here he is next to the imperfect high-grade Strike Gundam, and what a difference a decade makes there. As you can see, the forearm splits. Overall, his gray frame is going to be looking fantastic, but you're going to need to put in a lot more ink in a lot more noticeable places than in the subtle manners that they allow you to put them on to the DX, and just the details in the shoulders that you can see that are lacking there. I'm glad we're getting this kit in 2013, although there is a part of me, of course, that didn't want to wait back in the day. And thank you again, Build Fighters, for what we're seeing right here. The original Wing Gundam also looking good with that clear jewel and the green seal underneath there. But the details on the Wing Gundam and the DX, they're both perfectly colored, perfectly proportionate. I think they absolutely nailed almost every single aspect of these guys, except why is this guy's V-fin so well crafted out of plastic? Albeit, it does want to fall off, so that's sort of a mark against it being perfect. Whereas this guy's is staying on. It's unfortunate, though, that the red is provided with a sticker. Finally, what I've been most interested in is seeing him next to the Robot Damashi here, and just it's zoomed in so you can see some of the details. You can see that you're going to have some extra color apps down there painted on here and here. But the big difference between the high-grade Universal Sentry that I really like about it is if you had a Ziploc on hand, what would you be putting in there? An extra manipulator, and that's about it. Whereas for the Robot Damashi, he's going to be looking crazy and oversized and cartoony, but that's because you're going to be swapping off all these parts when you want to actually go to work. These shoulder parts here are overdone and silly, but they're going to be holding the satellite cannons in, which have a lot more color apps on them. These ones, if they're going to be in the back, you're not really going to notice them. But overall, the shield here, or on the inside of the green parts, there's going to be a lot more mechanical details. But if you want your high grades to be pure, simple, and you don't need a bag to get all the gimmicks deployed, I'd say this high grade is going to be doing a very good job and keeping most of the colors and details in line with something that is a lot more expensive. The extra manipulator here is going to be looking good when you pop the rifle in. And here's the shield attachment point there, looking good as it's going to rotate around. But it is not a ball joint, so you're not going to get full mobility out of it. But if he didn't have yet the looks, well, once you actually try to pose him, the ease with which you can do almost anything is going to be great, and is going to make you probably really appreciate the engineering that Bandai is able to pull off here in 2013. Check out the ankles down there. They move so well. They're just almost silky in their motion, getting exactly where you need them to be. The satellite cannons, choose to do with them whatever you want. Keep them in their X's straight up and down, or whoosh them off to the side. And the fact that you can angle these on the back, it would have been nice if you had just a little bit more motion back there with the wings. But overall, the beam sabers look good, and when he's staring down the barrel of the rifle with the shield up in that red hand, does make you wish you had a couple of effect open hands. But overall, if you forgot that this guy was a microwave of doom, and you just treated him as a regular shielded and rifled Gundam, he's looking pretty sharp. But instead of pulling out some small pink beam sabers, remember that this guy is going to fit very nicely here. You're not going to have to swap them off. They actually remove themselves properly from the hips, and they look good in action. No matter which way you look at them from, just love the fact that they've still got that blue part down on the hip, still going to be looking good. Here I've kept the satellite cannons in an X position, but the sharp looking shield and those clear green parts are going to draw all your attention to the upper body. You're just going to see enough of that white silhouette X in the background, and remember that he's got more tricks in store, including more X branding in case he had to be called in to advertise a new X-Men movie. But under the full moonlight, it's time for him, in the name of the moon, to punish. But with everything fully deployed, there may be somebody out there who complains that he's only got one pose, but what a pose. Now getting him there, it's going to be just a little bit tricky down here. The legs, they're going to open up nicely, and I'm just using the straight out angle there for the blue one. The forearms, I had the plates fall out just a couple times on me, but they're easy to put back into position. The shoulder parts, actually, these do a very good job once you've extended it of attaching on. And at the very beginning, I was a little bit worried because it just seemed like you don't have a lot of maneuverability there, as these shoulders are going to be fixed in place, or when you put them around the satellite cannons. They don't give you a lot of mobility, but you know what? The angle that they're at is very good. It's very natural. And then if you do want to move things around, remember you can twist these and angle them up however you want. The arms and the legs, do with them as you will. Anything is going to look good, as this guy just delivers a whole bunch of wattage down at any target. And some final thoughts now as he's joined by his Robot Damashi brother. I've got to say that this kit has been a long time in coming, and it's been well worth the wait. There's going to be a couple negatives there. First of all, you've got the yellow on the inside and you've got the gold up there. Sure, they could have jacked up the price and given us some actual gold-plated parts, but that's the kind of thing that we'll all get in the Master Grade one day, you'd think. And what do you think? I think I like the yellow more than the translucent down there for whatever reason. Would be nice if the seal set on there a little bit of, just a little bit smoother. Very disappointing about the V-fin. I think that's going to be one of the biggest knocks in people's minds against this kit. Along with, is it too plain? For me, when I see the back open and just one simple line over there, a little bit of color just dashed in there with the black pen on the side of the satellite cannons, for me, it's sufficient. But if you ever want to go back and compare it to the old 90s ones, it definitely is going to be looking a little bit simple in comparison. But overall, when you combine it with the fun, oh, and also the seals on there, not a big plus. But if you think about how many options you're going to have just in terms, the great posing is where it's all going to come down to. The ankles, the hips, the arms, everything's going to be moving. And with just simple armaments, they're going to look fantastic. And when you combine it with something that's a little bit more outlandish than your regular Gundam thin pink beam saber, this is just going to be a lot of fun. And the overall maneuverability of the backpack and the stability. Nothing's fallen out on me. Yeah, it's going to be just to take a couple seconds to open it all up. These, not difficult overall. The forums, a tiny bit tricky, but it's not that bad. And when you combine it with just the number of options that you've got over there, in terms of whooshing left and right with the effect that you can get, display your X at whatever angle you want, and when you bring it forward, the fact that these high-grade shoulders can catch it and hold it so well, it's such a well-designed angle, and he's got great hip mobility, and the waist, everything is going to move exactly as he should. There's going to be a bunch of visual and pain oomph delivered, and I think that this is just an absolute treat as a high grade and something that's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad it's finally here, and it just makes you want an MG all the more. So what do you think, everybody? How does he stack up next to the Robot Damashi, next to the regular HG After War Gundam X? And how does he stack up next to the Mao? Let's find out. Anyway, for me, this kit is an absolute win. Not perfect, but definitely up there. And it's just going to look fantastic on your high-grade Gundam shelf. Especially, you may even want to get two, one deployed and one not. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts about the video and the kit itself. And of course, stick around for lots more news, reviews, and everything else you could use. Thanks for watching. See ya. You know, in the Perfect Mission video, they did put in both wing zeros. Would it have been appropriate to put in an X and a double X?